Blending with colour pencils can be frustrating. You try to smooth things out, but instead you get harsh lines and uneven textures. And most people use solvents or heavy burnishing, but that takes time and can strain your hands. I've tested so many techniques, and this is by far the easiest way I've found to blend. It's smooth, it's effortless, and it doesn't require any extra tools, just the right layering technique. No excessive pressure, no complicated steps, just flawless blends with minimal effort. And the best part, it's easier on your joints so you can draw for longer without discomfort. Today, I'll show you exactly how it works, step by step. But before we jump in, let's talk about something I see all the time, swatches. A lot of blending tutorials show colour swatches, layering colours inside little squares, but that's not how I blend. Blending in a real drawing is completely different. You're dealing with textures, subtle colour shifts and natural transitions that swatches just don't capture. So instead of filling in random colour blocks, I'm going to show you how this technique works inside an actual drawing where it really matters. Let's get started. I drew this child's face a while ago as part of a workshop, and what I want to do today is to recreate part of the skin so you can actually see how I layer and blend. And I thought that using skin is a really, really great example for blending. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this, or around this kind of portion, this kind of area of the face, this bit here, and we're just going to recreate this. Now, I talked about not doing swatches, and instead of kind of creating the whole of the piece, I thought it would be much easier just to create, I guess, almost like a bit of a swatch, but we're just not doing one colour to another. We're actually going to be layering multiple colours, and these are the colours that I've chosen and that I used before actually that we're going to be using. So they're all sort of pinky shades, some sort of more orangey ones in there as well, and I've got like a sort of like a very pale pinky white, and I've got the red as well for glazing. So I'm going to show you how I layer these and how blending happens without me actually having to do very much at all. So I'm going to get cracking with that, and I've got another piece of paper with that little circle, and we're just going to create this area here. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so we're going to start off with, I've actually got, it's a Polychromos Cinnamon 189, and I'm going to start off with a light layer in the middle of here. So I'm just going to use little round pencil strokes, and we're just going to fill the circle with that colour. Now, I'm using pastel matte, but this is going to work for your hot press papers, all of that kind of thing. If you're working on drafting film, you'll probably have to change your techniques a little bit. But you can see I'm holding my pencil quite far back, so I can't add a huge amount of pressure. But the other thing that I'm doing is I'm keeping my pencil on the surface at all times. For me, this is really, really crucial when you're trying to create a smooth surface, because if you're always picking your pencil up off the surface and putting it back down again, you're going to be changing your pressure, and then you're going to be getting some different colours, values in there, just because your pressure is going to be different. So that's my first layer. Really simple. And you might be going, yeah, but it's really grainy, doesn't look anything like skin, and it doesn't, and it is. And that's because we're drawing something realistic with these little hard sticks of pigment. So you've got to layer it up. You've got to add your layers, and that's where the magic happens. So the next pencil I'm going to use is my burnt ochre. This is a Luminance pencil. It's burnt ochre 10%, and it's 872. This is a very soft pencil. You can see I've got quite sharp points on these as well, which is easier to demonstrate if I've got sharp points. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to cover the entire area. Now, I've automatically moved my fingers down the barrel a little bit. You can see they're a little bit closer, because now I want to be a little bit more precise. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did with the cinnamon, and I'm just going to go gently round and round, and I'm going to leave my pencil point on the surface of the paper as much as I can. Obviously sometimes you have to lift it and, you know, put it back on again, but as much as I can, I'm going to leave the pencil point on the surface of the paper. Now, what happens automatically is the first colour that I put down was a Polychromos pencil. That is a hard, dry pencil. So the pigment sits on top of the surface of the paper. Whatever paper you're using, it will sit on the top of the surface. So it then means that whatever pencil you then use next is going to move that pigment around a little bit. And you can see that even though I'm using very light pressure, and that is key, we're starting to get a really, really nice coverage on the pastel mat. And this is down to me using that hard dry pencil to begin with, and then using another pencil that's actually lighter than the one that I put down second. You can also see me kind of turning my pencil around a little bit. That's because I've got to a part on my Luminance, which does happen quite a bit on the different brands, where it can go a little bit scratchy. It probably just needs another sharpen. So we've then got the next layer down. Nice and gently, we're starting to build colour up. So the next thing I'm going to do now, and you can do this or it's entirely up to you. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I like to get a little cotton bud and just kind of go over the entire area with a cotton bud and just sort of gently add a little bit of a blend. Now you'll see that it sort of smushes it out a little bit, but it doesn't go super smooth. So we've got that, which is great, but we want to smooth that out a little bit more because there is quite a lot of grain in there. So the next colour I'm going to use is my Luminance Pink White. It's number 581. And it's a pinky, it's a very pale pink basically. And I'm going to go over the entire area of this now with the pink white, which should start to really smooth it out. So my pressure is still going to be light, but I'm just going to increase the pressure very slightly. And just by increasing that pressure, now I'm not talking burnishing, I'm not talking like hammering on the paper, I'm talking a very gentle increase in pressure. And what that's going to do is it's going to blend all of those colours together. And then we're going to start to see that really lovely, smooth skin quality coming through. So I'm using round pencil strokes, really important, because that's going to give us a much smoother and more even surface of colour. I'm going to go round and round, and we're starting to get a really nice skin tone here. Now, some skin tones, depending on which part of the face you're drawing, some skin tones are going to have some yellowy tones in it, and it also depends on your photograph and the lighting. Some skin tones are going to have purpley tones in it, especially if you're working around the corners of the eyes, in the shadows of the nose. You're going to have some sort of like purpley hues in there. Okay, so that's our next colour there. So that's basically 3 layers of pencil that have gone down. So next I'm going to take a much darker pencil, which is the Warm Earth 5%. And this is just going to give us a little bit of extra tone around where that sort of the cheek area goes. And this is the Warm Earth 5%, it's number 741, and it's another Luminance pencil. Okay, and I'm not going to put it everywhere. I want to bring it so that there's a little bit of lighter up at the top like we have on the cheek. So I'm going to bring it along the edge here. Again, very gently. You should be able to get really, really nice smooth lay down now, but don't worry if you start to get a few clumpy bits or it goes a little bit grainy, because what we can do is we can use the cotton bud, or we can use another pencil over the top. We could bring the pink white in, which I probably will do. Bring the pink white in again. So we're just going to go round and round, again really gently. Can you see how I've moved my fingers back up the pencil? Really gently. We're just going to come into here. Nice and gently, round and round, just looking at where those darker areas are in the skin. And the round and round and the gentle pressure is going to allow you to just drift off where you need this darker colour to stop. And again, this is all about blending, so we're still blending, but you're not kind of going harshly from one colour to the next. And that's why it's so much easier to show you the blending process when you're actually drawing something rather than just a block of colour that's, you know, which is going to blend blue to green. I like to see it actually happening on something that makes sense. And for me, it makes sense to create, you know, a bit of skin or a bit of fur or something like that. So we're just going really nice and gently. I'm just going to bring a little bit more up onto here. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in again with the burnt ochre 10%. I'm just going to sharpen this a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with the burnt ochre 10%. Again, round and round, nice and gently. And what that's going to do is it's just going to blend the layers underneath it. It's going to make everything nice and smooth. I love using pastel matte because it means that I can use really light pressure. It's a really, really lovely surface to use. If you're using other surfaces, it's exactly the same. You might have to use a little bit heavier pressure on hot press papers, but it depends on the hot press paper. So we're just going to go round and round in there, nice and gently. Just going to move it probably to sort of here-ish. Again, you know, depending on what it is that you're drawing, you'll have different values that will come up across the surface, and there'll be just very, very subtle changes. And it's the same with skin, fur, anything that you're drawing, you'll have those very subtle changes. Next, we're going to go back to the pink white, and we're just going to blend all of that back in again. What happens when we use a lighter colour in over the top of the darker ones, it will lighten it a little bit, so you will get the blending. So here I am blending again. Now I am not using hard pressure here at all. I'm just using the same pressure that I used with the other pencils. I'm just going round and round, and it's just mixing everything together and blending it all nice and smoothly. So we're starting to get that really nice smooth blend coming through. And this is, you know, it's been really nice and easy. My hand isn't hurting. You know, I'm of a certain age now. Everything hurts if I press it too hard. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be able to draw for a very long time. So I need to really look after my joints. And for me, this is the best way that I can describe of doing it. So there we have a really nice sort of smooth blend in there. The next thing I'm going to use is, this is going to scare you, the Deep Scarlet Red. It's number 219. It's a very, very bright red. And we're just going to add in the subtle sort of pink cheek on the bottom bit here. So again, I'm not going to be scared, although it can feel a little bit scary. My pressure needs to be the lightest pressure I can possibly muster, because this is what we call glazing. It's very, very, very light pressure that you can add onto the top of your layers of pencil, and you can just add these sort of subtle, or not quite so subtle in this case, colour, because this little child has got these sort of chubby rosy cheeks. So we're just going round and round again, very light pressure. So I'm trying not to let my pencil leave the surface, so that I've got exactly the same pressure throughout. I'm just going to go round and round, and we're still building those layers up. And this is the part that I absolutely love about colour pencils, where you're just creating depth and form and the realism of what it is that you're drawing with your layers. You know, you're not sitting there getting all hung up about, have I got this detail right, have I got that detail right. You're just going round and round with your pencil. And this is what I love about it, because it's such a mindful experience. It's just lovely. So I'm just going to go round and round in here. Now, you know, some skin tones are much more yellow, some skin tones have got a green undertone to them. Some skin tones, you know, are very pinky, some skin tones are very orangey, some skin tones are much, much darker. So, you know, it's up to you what colours you use. But I would suggest that the skin tones are usually darker than what you think they are. Even with Caucasian skin, it's usually a lot darker than what you anticipate. And you look at a Caucasian child and you think, oh, you know, I need to use the palest of pinks with that. And actually, you probably need to use sort of stronger oranges, you know, to get the skin tones correct. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of that Deep Scarlet Red up here as well. Just nice and gently. We can use the cotton bud again if we need to do, which, you know, is going to work really well. So bring a little bit over here, and then we can come in. I've got another, the secret weapon. I've got a secret weapon to share with you. We've got all sorts of brands of pencils. I tend to use the ones that I've been showing you here. I don't tend to use Prisma purely for the fact that they're too soft for me. I prefer a harder pencil. I prefer to have more control over the pigment that's coming out, rather than, it's almost like an ink pen. I find that Prismas are a bit, it's almost like they're flooding out. So I tend not to use Prismas, but there's nothing wrong with them. If you've got them, please use them. So my little secret weapon here is my Lightfast, and this is the cinnamon. And there are a few different colours in the cinnamon range that are really good for this. There's another one that's called Pale Peach, which is great for, here we go, the Pale Peach one. This is great for like blending and smoothing as well, because it's it's another really pale colour. So let's get going with our cinnamon, the Lightfast cinnamon, and I'm just going to come over the top here, and I'm just going to come in again, and we're just going to add another layer into here, smoothing everything out again. Nice light pressure. I'm using very light pressure in here, and round over the top of our layers here. It's also adding a little bit of sort of dullness into there as well, darkening areas. I'm not going to bring it too much into the red. Let's bring a little bit more into there, and then I'm going to use my cotton bud again, and I'm just going to go round and round over the top of the Deep Scarlet Red that I put in there. There's nothing on the cotton bud. There's no, odorless mineral spirits. There's nothing like that. I don't ever use odorless mineral spirits. I only use colour pencil. And what we now have here is a really nice sort of blended area of skin. Again, I'm going to show you with the Pale Peach just a little bit, you know, if you're finding that it's a little bit grainy, just how the Pale Peach is going to go on there. So I'm just going to sharpen this. And just by adding a tiny weeny extra bit of pressure, so it's still light pressure, but we're just going to add a little bit more, you can then start to sort of iron out any of those lumps and bumps that are maybe in there. So just round and round. So this isn't burnishing. Burnishing is a lot harder. This is still relatively light pressure. I'd probably say it's a medium pressure. And you can see that by bringing that lighter colour in over the top of everything, it starts to sort of smooth things out a little bit more. And that is a very quick demonstration of blending and how to blend skin tones. Obviously, you know, if you're going to be drawing, you're going to be doing an awful lot more. But if I bring this bit over here, you know, you can add a lot more into there. Let's just zoom back out. So we've got that little round area there. Is kind of this little round area in here, and you know, this, I mean, you could carry on kind of smoothing everything out if you wanted to. That is basically how I blend.